will once again request all the delegates outside, if at all you can hear me, and it will define how the progress come is one, the health of us, which is the humans, and the second is the health of our planet. And there are already very ongoing discussions around it, and it's not very hard to imagine that both the things are very important and they're absolutely interrelated. And today, all of us have gathered here to discuss about this thing, which is the health of our planet. And with that, I will now be requesting and calling out our dignitaries so that we can now officially start with our inaugural ceremony, which is the lamp lighting. I would now take the opportunity to invite Dr. Vijayash Mishra, who's our president of DMA, to please come forward for the lamp lighting ceremony. I would also like to invite Mr. Sameet Gambhir, who is the ESG committee member, to please come forward for the lamp lighting ceremony. Mr. Suresh Pandey, who's the Central Council member of ICSI, to please join us for the lamp lighting ceremony. CS DEEPAK Jain, who's the chairman of the DMA ESG committee, to please come forward. We have with us Mr. Amit Verma, who's the Director of Economic and Finance, Niti Aayog, to please come for the lamp lighting ceremony. I would also like to invite Sanjay Seth, CEO of Grih Council, to join us for the lamp lighting ceremony. And I also would like to request Amit Arya, Secretary of DMM, and Vinod Pandey, the ESG committee member, to kindly join us for the lamp lighting ceremony. Sustainability Summit, where we talk how to save our planet, which is ultimately the need of the hour. And with that, we would now be starting with our first session. I would be inviting our dignitaries on stage. Can we give a great round of applause for our president, Dr. Vijayash Mishra. So I request you to please take this seat with us. I would also like to request Mr. Suresh Pandey. We have with us CS DEEPAK Jain to please come on the stage. Mr. Amit Verma, who's the Director, Economic and Finance, Niti Aayog. Mr. Sameet Gambhir. I also request Sanjay Seth, CEO of Grih Council, to please come on stage. Vijayash Mishra, President of DMA and Vice President of Thomas International, which is one of the largest assessment companies, to address us all. A little more about Dr. Vijayash Mishra is that he has given consultancy across 27 countries, including several governments. He has also mentored thousands of students and has even taught at various IIMs. He has got several of his publications to his credit in journals from Emerald and IndusScience, etc., on subjects like competency, psychometric testing, and assessment centers. He's a man who also loves to play golf and photography, and indeed he's the man of the hour. So with that, can we give a great round of applause for Dr. Vijayash Mishra as I now request him to give the opening remarks.
Good morning. Good morning. Very warm welcome to all of you. This is some people say it's a perk of being a president, you get to speak first. but you ask the president that how many times they have to prepare speeches and lectures. But it's an honor and privilege to be standing as a president here. On behalf of DMA, I'd like to welcome all of you, and I'd also like to congratulate Mr. DEEPAK Jain for conducting this second large event in this term, this Global Sustainability Summit. So Deepak ji, I'd like to give everybody a big round of applause for him in the beginning. Now, this is an event which is being done by our ESG committee on sustainability. And I was thinking of talking, and actually just before this, I was coming from my son's school, and there was something that was written over there, Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. Now, and it's a very funny thing. That's how we, typically we make speeches. Is you look around something and then you try and you find out something. And if you look at it, it comes from the Mahopanishad, which means word is one family. Essentially, the theme affirms that all life, be it human, animal, plant, and microorganisms, and their interconnectedness on the planet Earth, in the wider universe, which is one Earth, one family, one future. Now, you would have seen what happened to the hills during the rains. The way we saw mountains crashing, you have seen cloudbursts, they have become very frequent, which used to be very infrequent once upon a time. Why is all that happening? That is happening essentially because all of us want to do better in our life. But is that being better? Is that greed? I guess it is, in my opinion, it is greed. Now, there is a prophecy by Cree Indians, and it says, when the last tree is cut down, the last fish eaten, and the last stream poisoned, you will realize that you cannot eat money. Some of it, if you realize, some of us realized that just 2 years ago, we realized when COVID happened, there were people who unfortunately passed away with a bag full of money. They realized they could not do anything. So what are we running after? I was having a discussion with a couple of young people over there in terms of the fact that people have started traveling more because they realize that one life we need to live our life. But we are saying that when we live our life, should we live our life alone, or should we live our life with all the people around us and make sure that everybody has an equitable life? I was also reading a little bit, and I came across a small speech by Sri Gyan Vatsal Swami, who actually explained the difference between growth, progress, and success. He said, increasing your materialistic possession is growth. Typically, you ask people, my salary is X, it's become 10X. I have one house, I've got 10 houses. I've got 2 cars, I've got 10 cars. He said, when such a growth is aided by ethics, which is discipline and honesty, it is called progress. And further said, progress plus humanity plus morality is what is success. So possibly time has come for us to now start redefining what success should mean to all of us. Now, when you look at it, even our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji in his address to the nation from the Red Fort on the 77th Independence Day said that the entire world is grappling with climate change and India has to show the way to combat it. Very simply, we are 1/4 of the world's population, 1/5 the way you look at it. If we decide, we'll have a voice. Conferences like these remind us to think, act towards creating a sustainable world. I urge all of you to act before time runs out because there's a Red Indian saying, we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. With this, I'd like to welcome all of you once again to this summit and I wish Summit all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for especially emphasize that ultimately this is one earth, one family, and one future. And it is high time that we redefine what exactly success now means. It has to be coupled with ethics and with morality. Thank you so much, sir, for giving the perfect address. And moving forward, I would now be requesting Mr. Samneet Gambhir, who is the DMA ESG committee member, to address us all. a little about Sir, if you give me the opportunity. He's a senior corporate legal professional. Okay.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. I'll not take much time because we all actually are waiting to hear our panelists here. I think we have esteemed panels, and the panel sessions. When I was looking at the program agenda, it's really so relevant panel discussion that you don't want to miss that opportunity to hear all of those. I'm grateful to DEEPAK Jain ji, who have very well organized this committee. And when I was first invited to the part of this committee, I'm no expert in sustainability or ESG. But during this journey, and then whatever I have learned is something very different. I was learned about this committee and the committee people, which was the great learning for me was that sustainability starts from myself. Everything which individually, we are talking about corporate social responsibility, we are talking about corporate sustainability, but it starts with individual sustainability. So that's what I've been learning with this committee, and I'm really enjoying being part of this committee. And therefore, whenever we get an opportunity, we do a lot of meeting, and the kind of effort this committee is doing in terms of going to the schools, colleges, because that's where is the requirement. At that age, people need to learn about the sustainability. I'm grateful to Delhi Management Association and especially Yogesh Mishra ji always giving us this opportunity and always taking lead in this and giving all the blessings for this committee also and all the members sitting here. But I think, when the important thing which we are saying is that our small habits, this is what I've learned here, small habits really makes a difference. And that's what is required. अगर हर एक आदमी अपनी individual liability लेगा, individual responsibility लेगा, तो automatically, world will have a different changes. हमने देखा COP28 ने अभी though India didn't sign that 2030 target because we still are far away from the net zero, but net zero is obviously a target for us, and we are looking not only 2070, but we are looking actually at 2047 or 50 in fact. But COP28 has a lot of other things in fact to learn about it, and whether India was a party to that. And so the net zero is very important for us, and that's the target that everyone is looking today. And we are looking at our Prime Minister is saying that 2047 is something which is a Viksit India, developed India, and that's where we need to achieve our net zero as well. And that's very important. And a country like us, I know it's a challenge, but we all can do it, and this is what is required at this moment. So ये जो 1972 में एक बार शुरू हुआ स्टॉकहोम में, and then Berlin से शुरू हुआ COP20 COPs, and then आते I think India is also again participating in COP33 I believe, but let's see. So ये पूरी journey है, this journey के अंदर there are many important decisions have been taken, and what we have seen in the after Paris Agreement, the kind of enthusiasm we have seen in other countries, and this has become. I was told that last year, the committees, which is UNFCCC, they said that almost 2/3 of the net zero we have actually achieved, and the last 1/3 is something which is going to be achieved very quickly now, because people have really understood this. कि fossil fuel नहीं चाहिए हमें, renewable पे इतना जोर पड़ रहा है और लगातार पड़ रहा है, and there are other things which we are doing. So hopefully the way they have analyzed the thing and the way they have said that at moment we have achieved half, and it looks like that we have actually achieved 2/3, which is very good news for us, because ultimately we only have this planet. तो मैं तो एक शेर हमेशा कहता हूँ, दोबारा दोहरा देता हूँ कि अगले वाली जनरेशन हमें यही बोलेगी कि जिंदगी से बड़ी कोई सजा ही नहीं और जुर्म क्या है ये पता ही नहीं कि इस प्लेनेट पे आने के बाद में. तो देयरफॉर मैं तो अभी भी यही कहता हूँ कि हमारी अगली जनरेशन को हमें वही प्लेनेट देना है जो एटलीस्ट हमें और उससे बेटर जो हमें मिला था. And we are all talking about pre-industrialization, 0.1, 0.5, etc. So I think without taking much of the time, I'm very excited to see this summit, to hear all the experts here, and thank you very much once again DMA and ESG committee and Mishra ji, Yogesh ji, Deepak ji, and to my friend Suresh Pandey, who is also here, is our Central Council member for our Company Secretary Institute. And I think being a CS, I really have a lot of in terms of my responsibility. The Company Secretary Institute is also doing a lot of good work, and I am also part of their board of sustainability. Thank you very much once again, and welcome you all here.
Thank you so much, sir, for your remarks, and very rightly said that it is basically the individual sustainability that we have to take charge of. It's the small steps. And also, another point he mentioned that sustainability should absolutely be taught in schools. It's the youngsters who need to be reminded how to take care of things, and especially the planet, to plant trees. It's just in small and simple things, and yet we overlook on them. Thank you, sir. And moving forward, I will now be requesting Mr. Suresh Pandey, our Central Council member of ICSI, to please address us all. Can we give a great round of applause, please?
Dignitaries on the dais, all the participants, a very good morning to everyone. So, first of all, I would like to congratulate Delhi Management Association for convening this Global Sustainability Summit in Delhi. And it is very interesting that we are convening this summit in Delhi where everyone is deprived of a fresh air to take breathe. So this is very, I think, apt topic, and we should discuss more and more about the sustainability, about the future of our generations. So this sustainability concept is not new for India. I would say when you go back and when you see our ancient literature, you will find many examples about sustainability. And और जैसे कि सर ने भी अभी like very rightly he has mentioned, और सर ने बताया कि उनके बेटे के स्कूल में लिखा है कि वसुधैव कुटुंबकम वाली बात. तो I would like to tell you it is mentioned in our parliament also. और जब हम बात करते हैं वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की तो थोड़ा और हम पीछे जाएं. जब like when मुझे लगता है कि जब हमारे कल्चर में हम बोलते हैं कि जब इस ब्रह्मांड का निर्माण हुआ, तो वी आर ऑलवेज डिस्कसिंग अबाउट लॉर्ड शिवा कि शिव ने ब्रह्मांड को बनाया. और जब शिव की परिकल्पना शास्त्रों के थ्रू हमें बताई गई तो वहाँ पे ही सस्टेनेबिलिटी के बारे में शायद पहला मैसेज ह्यूमैनिटी को ये दिया गया कि शिव का मतलब है जो हर चीज़ में बैलेंस बना के रखे. आप देखिए उनकी जटाओं में गंगा है, तो वहाँ से हमें समझ में आया कि रिवर्स हमारे लिए कितनी इम्पोर्टेंट है. उनके गले में सांप है जिसको हम बहुत डेंजरस स्पीसीज मानते हैं, बहुत डेंजरस एनिमल मानते हैं, लेकिन उसको भी कितने प्यार से उन्होंने गले में आभूषण के तौर पे रखा. हम जब शिव के बारे में और सुनते हैं, समझते हैं, तो हम देखते हैं कि नंदी बैल पे उनकी सवारी है, तो वाहन है. किस तरीके से जो बैल था, आज से अगर हम इफ़ यू टॉक अबाउट 50 years बिफोर, 50 साल पहले बैल को एक परिवार के बेटे से ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट माना जाता था. आई एम फ्रॉम अ वेरी स्मॉल टाउन एंड इट इज़ वेरी मच पॉपुलर नाउ डेज. मैं अयोध्या के एक छोटे से गांव से आता हूँ. तो मतलब हमारे गांव में ऐसा माना जाता था कि जब गाय के बछड़ा पैदा होता था तो सोहर करके एक संगीत वो गाया जाता था, घरों में थालियाँ बजती थी. लेकिन कैसे मनुष्य ने उसको परिवर्तित कर दिया कि बैल होने पे, बछड़ा होने पे लोग दुख मनाने लगे. तो ये जो हम एंशेंट से जैसे जैसे कमर्शलाइजेशन की तरफ बढ़ते गए, मुझे लगता है कि वी हैव लॉस्ट समवेयर अबाउट द सस्टेनेबिलिटी. हर चीज़ को कॉमर्स से जोड़ दिया गया, हर चीज़ को पैसे से जोड़ दिया गया. तो और इस बात की मुझे खुशी है, जब हम एंशेंट की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ, मैं शिव की बात कर रहा हूँ, तो और थोड़ा सा आप आगे आएँ. आज से लगभग मतलब 2300-2400 साल पहले, मतलब 300 BC बिफोर, मतलब ईसा पूर्व जिसको कहा जाता है, 300 साल पहले पंडित आचार्य विष्णु शर्मा सर, जिन्होंने वसुधैव कुटुंबकम को अपने पंचतंत्र की कहानियों में लिखा, तो 2300-2400 साल पहले हमारे देश में ऐसे मतलब प्रगाढ़ विद्वान हुए जिन्होंने सस्टेनेबिलिटी की बात करी, जिन्होंने बोला कि वर्ल्ड जो है पूरा वर्ल्ड हमारी फैमिली है. सो दिस इज आई थिंक वेरी 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 कनेक्टेड सब्जेक्ट फॉर इंडिया. एंड जब हम मॉडर्न से थोड़ा और मॉडर्न की तरफ आगे बढ़ें, तो और आज के समय में बात करेंगे हाउ इंडिया इज वर्किंग अबाउट द ग्लोबल सस्टेनेबिलिटी और हाउ वी आर लाइक वर्किंग फॉर ग्लोबल सस्टेनेबल गोल्स. तो आज हम देखते हैं कि इतना प्रतिभाशाली हमारे देश का लीडर है जिसने ऐसा पहली बार मतलब हुआ. आप देखिए हिस्ट्री में, हमें आज़ाद हुए 75 साल से ज़्यादा हो गए, ऐसा पहली बार हिस्ट्री में हुआ कि हमारे देश में सस्टेनेबिलिटी की इतनी बड़ी बात हुई, हमने फ्रांस के साथ मिलके एक बहुत बड़ी इंटरनेशनल सोलर अलायंस बनाई और आज के समय में मोर देन 70 कंट्रीज आर मेंबर ऑफ दैट अलायंस एंड दिस इज द फर्स्ट इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैविंग हेड ऑफिस इन इंडिया। तो ये हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी गर्व की बात है। मैं और आगे चलूँ, अगर और आगे मैं आज की बात करूँ तो वी कैन सी, मतलब each and every decision of government we can see they are trying to do the inclusion, they are trying to do the sustainable development। चाहे आप sustainable development में financial inclusion की बात करें, आप देखिए कि किस तरह हमारे देश में 30 करोड़ से ज़्यादा लोगों के जनधन अकाउंट में खाते खोले गए और उनसे सिर्फ ये नहीं हुआ कि उनके खाते खोल दिए गए, ये एक स्कीम थी, किस तरीके से डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट ट्रांसफ़र उनके खाते में गए। और ऐसा कहा जाता था कि जब यहाँ से 100 रुपया निकलता था किसी स्कीम के थ्रू तो 5 रुपये भी नीचे नहीं पहुँच पाते थे, इतना बुरा हाल था बीच में करप्शन का। तो डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट ट्रांसफर से किस तरीके से फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन किया गया, उनको बैंक के दरवाजे तक हम लोगों ने पहुँचाया। हम एक कदम और आगे चलते हैं, हमारे शास्त्रों में ये भी कहा गया है कि सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया। तो जिस तरीके से सर्वे सन्तु निरामया मतलब सब लोग निरोगी रहें, किसी को कोई रोग न रहे, किस तरीके से हमारे सरकार ने, हमारे देश की सरकार ने आरोग्य भारत योजना शुरू करी जिसमें हर गरीब परिवार को 5 लाख तक का बेनिफिट दिया जा रहा है और करोड़ों लोगों ने इसका बेनिफिट लिया, आप सब देख सकते हैं। और उसके बाद देखिए आप किस तरीके से हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री ने, ऐसा नहीं है कि मैं कोई प्रधानमंत्री का बहुत बड़ा समर्थक हूँ, बहुत सारी ऐसी भी मुद्दे हैं जिनको मैं उनको क्रिटिसाइज भी करता हूँ, लेकिन जो चीज़ अच्छी है वो बोलनी चाहिए। किस तरीके से उन्होंने बात करी हर घर शौचालय की, ये आप सोच के देखिए अपने आप में कि किसी प्रधानमंत्री के लिए इट इज़ लाइक, मुझे लगता है कि बहुत बड़ा एक ये, मैं इसको बहुत बड़ी हिम्मत की बात मानूंगा कि आप अपने देश के प्रधानमंत्री हैं और खड़े होकर मंच से आप बोलते हैं कि हम हर घर में शौचालय बनाएंगे। आप देखिए किस तरीके से ही वॉज टॉकिंग अबाउट मिलेट्स, मतलब मिलेट, उन्होंने बोला कि हम मिलेट खाएंगे इससे हमारा शरीर स्वस्थ होगा, वो तो एक बात है ही, लेकिन उस मिलेट के पीछे, क्योंकि मैं किसान परिवार से आता हूँ, मैंने देखा है किस तरीके से चीज़ें होती हैं। जब आप मिलेट की बात करते हैं तो मिलेट को खाने से आपको फ़ायदा तो होगा ही होगा, उससे आपकी बीमारियां तो दूर होगी ही होंगी, लेकिन जो चावल को पैदा करने के लिए एक्सेसिव वाटर हम लोग एक्सट्रैक्ट कर रहे हैं ज़मीन के नीचे, जो गेहूँ को पैदा करने के लिए हम लोग एक्सेसिव यूरिया का यूज़ कर रहे हैं, एक्सेसिव पेस्टिसाइड का यूज़ कर रहे हैं, ये सब चीज़ें जब पहले गाँव में बाजरे की, ज्वार की फसल हुआ करती थी तो उस फसल में खाद डालने की ज़रूरत नहीं होती थी, उस फसल में सिंचाई की ज़रूरत नहीं होती थी। तो मुझे लगता है कि इंडिया के लिए ग्लोबल सस्टेनेबिलिटी का जो टॉपिक है बहुत एप्ट टॉपिक है और एज एन इंडिविजुअल हमारा क्या रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है उस पर भी हमें विचार करना चाहिए। और मुझे बहुत लिमिटेड समय मिला है बोलने के लिए, तो मैं ये ज़रूर बोलूँगा कि आप खुद समझें कि हमें क्या करना है। मतलब आई कैन सी देयर आर मैनी कंपनी सेक्रेटरीज और एज अ कंपनी सेक्रेटरी और एज अ प्रोफेशनल व्हाट इज़ आवर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी, वी नीड टू आइडेंटिफाई इट। जो भी आप ऑडिट कर रहे हैं, चाहे वो सोशल ऑडिट करें, चाहे आप कोई ESG की रिपोर्ट बना रहे हैं, चाहे आप कोई BRSR की रिपोर्ट बना रहे हैं, तो सिर्फ अपने क्लाइंट की सुविधा के लिए, सिर्फ अपनी कंपनी की सुविधा के लिए आप कोई ऐसी झूठी रिपोर्ट ना बनाएं। देखिए दाल में नमक तो चलता है लेकिन नमक में दाल ना चलाएं, तो यही मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है। और इंडिविजुअल लेवल पे हम लोग कोशिश करें, जैसे सर ने बोला कि ICSI ने बहुत सारे इनिशिएटिव लिए, तो उनमें से छोटे छोटे इनिशिएटिव, एक मैं आपको बताना चाहूँगा कि आज आप ICSI में जाएंगे तो प्लास्टिक की बोतल में हम आपको पानी नहीं देंगे, हम आपको पानी देंगे ग्लास में। हमने ICSI में 0 प्लास्टिक यूज़ को इनिशिएट करने की कोशिश करी, हमने काउंसिल में डिसीजन लिया कि वी विल नॉट यूज़ प्लास्टिक बोतल्स इन ICSI। सो हम लोगों ने अलग अलग सस्टेनेबल बोर्ड बनाए। तो मुझे लगता है कि किसी भी बदलाव की शुरुआत तो हमें खुद से ही करनी पड़ती है और धीरे धीरे हमें अपनी आदतों को बदलना पड़ेगा, आगे बढ़ना पड़ेगा और ज़्यादा चर्चाएँ सस्टेनेबिलिटी में करनी पड़ेगी, नहीं तो आने वाली जनरेशन वही शेर जो सर ने बोला था वही बोलेगी और हमारे पास कोई जवाब नहीं होगा। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Thank you so much, sir, for your address. And as we all know that even our ancient literature taught us to be sustainable, but this transition to commercialization has what made us forget what really matters, which is our planet. It has now made us very greedy, and I think that's also the reason why all of us have gathered here to be reminded of how to be sustainable and to find ways to be sustainable and to advocate more about it. Thank you so much, sir. And now I would be requesting our chairman of DMA, CS DEEPAK Jain sir, to address us all. But I think before he addresses, he has requested us to play a video. So we'll play the video. I would be requesting our audiovisual team to please play the video.
So far, the only planet that can sustain life. It's been sustaining life years, and humans for about 6 million years. When seen from space, the planet looks calm, serene, mighty and magnificent, focused on rotating and revolving around the sun. But when you zoom in, it's a different story altogether. The planet that nurtured the human race for billions of years is now at its mercy. Firstly, humans overpopulated the planet. We understand that every life is precious, but there are 8 billion of us on Earth. Experts say that we are way too many. Way too many more than this planet can sustainably carry. Many say that the planet has a capacity of 9 to 10 billion people, and we are closer to hitting this mark than we think. In fact, there will be 10 billion people on this planet in about 33 years. Currently, humanity is using the equivalent of 1.75 Earths to provide for itself. This means we're living on one planet but consuming the resources of almost 2 planets. We are exploiting resources like we're never going to run out, but more on that later. Coming back to overpopulation. How many humans can this planet sustain? Well, the planet reached its limit 53 years ago. In 1970, there were 3.7 billion people on the planet, less than half the population of today, and just about enough for the planet to sustain. Ever since then, humans are living on what's called an ecological debt. This means our annual demand of resources is way more than what our planet can naturally provide in a year. This is a loan of sorts, and who will repay it? Our children and grandchildren and their grandchildren. That is, if we leave anything on this planet for them to have. In the 19th century, the UK economist Thomas Malthus shared his perspective on overpopulation. He argued that populations inevitably expand until they outgrow their available food supply. He believed that disease, famine, war, or calamity would reverse the population. We understand that Malthus was a controversial personality, but his pessimism on overpopulation may hold some truth. Now, let's talk about the most important natural resource, water, or maybe we should say fresh water. Humans cannot live without drinking water longer than 3 days. We get fresh water from glaciers, lakes, reservoirs, ponds, and streams. Fresh water is central to our being. We drink it, we use it to grow crops, we use it in the manufacturing and energy industries. Fresh water prevents erosion. It provides natural protection from flooding. And do you know when we are going to run out of fresh water? Experts say in 16 years. Yes, we are likely to run out of fresh water in less than 2 decades. How do we prevent it? We need to drastically reduce our consumption. We need to stop the continuous exploitation and pollution of our freshwater bodies. Needless to say, easier said than done. What about soil? Soil essentially puts food on our plate. If there's no soil, there's no food. It naturally purifies water, protects us from floods and tackles droughts. Basically, it's our life support system. Humans have managed to ruin soil as well. Deforestation, overgrazing, intensive cultivation. These are just a few practices that have caused some irreversible harm to the soil. We say irreversible because it takes hundreds of thousands of years to form an inch of topsoil. Topsoil is one of the most important elements in food production. With over 8 billion mouths to feed, we need to double our food production, but resources are scarce. We are losing 75 billion tons of topsoil in a year. What about air? No good news there either. The air that we breathe is dangerously polluted. According to the World Health Organization, 9 out of 10 people breathe polluted air, and it adds up. In order to cater to over 8 billion people, we need industries. These industries produce goods that we think we need to go about our daily lives. In that process, industries pump out dirty emissions. They mix with the air and enter our lungs. Air pollution is called a silent killer. It's the fourth leading contributor to early death. The current levels of greenhouse gas emissions are very high. In 2021, it was predicted that our planet has about 11 years to cut emissions if it wants to avoid dire climate conditions. There is a 50% chance that temperatures will rise by 1.5 degrees Celsius by 2033. By 2043, it will jump by 1.7 degrees Celsius. And by 2054, the temperature will rise by 2 degrees Celsius. And when that happens, the world will witness catastrophic conditions. Nearly 3 billion people will likely slip into chronic water scarcity. Now, let's try to answer an important question. How long until global warming makes our planet uninhabitable? About 30 to 50 years. This isn't our projection. NASA says that some regions of the planet will not be habitable in 50 years' time due to climate change. So yes, our planet looks mighty, but the devil is in the detail. We are turning the planet into a giant ball of trash. We're making the planet sicker. Our aim here is not to alarm you or instill fear. Our aim is to educate you about what's going on outside the comfort of your home and how it might impact you. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "There's enough for everyone's need, but not for everyone's greed." Our greed has driven us to a point of no return, and if projections are to be believed, the doomsday is just around the corner.
Because the organizers, the secretariat has arranged this video, and मैंने भी आप देखी है, and it is really giving a shocking facts, and mind पे जाके इधर से अटैक करता है कि वो ये होने वाला है. Because we are all running a race, materialistic race. We are busy in our profession, we are busy in our business life and personal life. So many problems. Sometimes we live a miserable life, and in any such presentation, people ask me, "ठीक है, sustainability, climate change, and all, but to do about our problems? We have to earn our living. We have to balance our life. We have to live a life where we have to take a relationship and all. But we need to manage this also, because जब कल को planet की जैसे समीर जी ने बोला कि we have to leave a planet for the future generation. बच्चों के लिए हमको planet छोड़ना है. A good planet, livable planet, not money. Normally we used to leave this planet कि बच्चों के लिए पैसा रहे. इस साथ we need to leave a good planet also. So friends, we again all welcome you here, and I appreciate all of you who have joined here and spending their valuable time attending this important summit. I would like to applaud you, all of you, because you realize that this is an important topic and you are here. I appreciate you all. And friends, this ESG committee was constituted last year when Dr. Yogesh Mishra given us this responsibility to take it ahead. I always appreciate Dr. Yogesh Mishra and the management committee of DMA for taking this initiative. Mr. Amit Arya is here, our secretary, and Mr. Narendra Gupta is also here. So I really appreciate all the DMA committee members, including our all the office bearers, for constituting this committee. So friends, we know India and the world are facing at present this two critical challenges at present. One is climate crisis and another is, any guess? Artificial intelligence. And sometimes it becomes critical, challenging to foresee which of the challenges is more critical. And wherever we can take decisions, approaches, wisdom-based approach, we need to aware ourselves, our consciousness, that and simultaneously climate change and artificial intelligence, they offer us a good opportunity also. As a motivational speaker, we used to say that every adversity brings some opportunity. So climate change also brings some opportunity, like we now need to shift to the renewable energy sources. We call it wind energy, solar energy, and other like source of energy, which is clean energy, which is not emitting pollution when we produce electricity with the help of coal. Now we need to shift it to renewable energy sources. India and the world has given themselves target. For example, in India, we have given us target that by 2030 we will produce, I believe, 500 gigawatt of energy with the help of renewable sources. And then it also gives us an opportunity to shift to the circular economy. Circular economy is a very, very good concept. When you read it, you will realize, and it can give us employment to a lot of people. We have a panel discussion on circular economy also. And then lastly, I say that it gives us an opportunity to go back to our roots. Roots meaning, friends, we are Homo sapiens. We acquired cognitive ability 50,000 years ago. We got the wisdom, the thinking ability 50,000 years ago. Before that, we used to live in forests with the animals, with all those different species. But when we got cognitive ability, we shift ourselves, we become intelligent. And when I was reading, I went through that wherever these Homo sapiens go after acquiring the cognitive ability, the animals, some rare species, they start extinct. Somehow with our intelligence, we were not letting them survive, if you read the history. But now this climate crisis gives us an opportunity to embrace those animals, those forests, oceans, our nature. We need to embrace them. We need to take care of them. Rabindranath Tagore once said that we are the only intelligent species in this world, in this planet, who can think, who has wisdom. So it is our responsibility that we should take care of the environment, the nature, the universe, the animals. And when we acquired the cognitive ability, since then we have been using these animals sometimes mercilessly, and they are serving us patiently. We mold them with our intention. हम जैसे चाहे उनको मोल्ड कर लेते हैं. नहीं, हम कई बार देखते हैं, हम जैसे हम किसी हॉर्स को यूज कर रहे हैं, ये टांगा गाड़ी. जब बच्चे थे तो उसको एंजॉय करते थे. I recently went to बोध गया. वहाँ पे एक जगह पे जाने के लिए कुछ गाड़ी अलाउड नहीं है. You can go only by टांगा. So when I sit on this and the horse was riding, वो सोच रहा था यार ये horse ये भाग क्यों नहीं आता ये सब कुछ छोड़ के, ये क्यों सहन कर रहा है, वो उसको मार रहा है, वो चल रहा है. तो आज की डेट में हम सोच सकते हैं, थोड़े मैच्योर हो गए हैं, तो सब समझ में आया कि यार ये बचपन से ही उसने ये सब देखा है करते हुए, उसका यही है, उसको खाना, उसको चारा मिलेगा, वो ये करेगा, बचपन से ही उसकी लाइफ ऐसी है. तो सारे एनिमल्स को हम बचपन से ऐसे ही ट्रीट करते हैं. एंड हम थोड़ा बहुत हम कंसिडरेट हो सकते हैं. पोल्ट्री इंडस्ट्री के बारे में पढ़ रहा था, जब से डॉक्टर मिश्रा ने ये रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी दी है, तो मैं थोड़ा ये सब चीज़ें पढ़ता रहता हूँ. तो पोल्ट्री इंडस्ट्री के बारे में पढ़ रहा था कि हाउ वी ट्रीट हैंस, चिकन हम किस तरह से ट्रीट करते हैं. हम आई नो एग इज ए न्यूट्रिशियस प्रोडक्ट, बट समटाइम्स वी ट्रीट देम मर्सीलेसली. So friends, I mean, this is just a few ideas that we should take care of our planet and these nature animals. The point is that we need to awake ourselves, our consciousness. And this many times when in the international conflicts, there are countries who are waging war on each other. These also create unnecessary pollution. एंड जितनी हम कोशिश करते हैं वो उस वार की वजह से पीछे रहते हैं. कई बार मैं सोचता हूँ कि ये दोज हु वेज ए वार अगेंस्ट अनदर कंट्री आर दे कॉन्शियस, उस बात को रियलाइज कर पा रहे हैं कितना नुकसान कर रहे हैं वो. सो पॉलिटिक्स, जियोपॉलिटिक्स एंड इन द पॉलिटिक्स ऑल ओवर इन इंडिया, इन द वर्ल्ड, समटाइम्स क्रिएट्स प्रॉब्लम. दिस समिट इज बीइंग कंडक्टेड टू अवेक अस, टू अवेक माई सेल्फ ऑल्सो. कई बार मेरे को लोग बोलते हैं कि मैं बोलता हूँ, स्पीच देता हूँ, कुछ बोलता हूँ, यार आप सब चीज़ों को फॉलो करते हो, आप स्पीच दे रहे हो. मैं कहता हूँ कि मैं अपने आप को ही बोल रहा हूँ जो मैं बोल रहा हूँ, बिकॉज व्हेन आई स्पीक इट गोज इनसाइड माय सबकॉन्शियस माइंड. एम आई राइट? So it is important कि we meet and we spread this awareness, this consciousness. And friends, मैं कई बार ये भी सोचता हूँ कि ये why this happens, why this climate crisis happens, why this unsustainable things happens. हम ऐसा क्यों करते हैं? तो थोड़ा सा पढ़ने के बाद रियलाइज हुआ, the more we are slave to our five senses, the more unsustainable we become, the more unconscious we become. If we have become slave to our senses. So थोड़ा सा ऊपर उठें, सिक्स सेंस को भी रियलाइज करें, कॉन्शियसनेस को भी रियलाइज करें, हायर सेल्फ को रियलाइज करें, हायर कॉन्शियसनेस को रियलाइज करें. सोचें बुद्धा और महात्मा गांधी का नाम हम क्यों लेते हैं? These are नॉर्मल ह्यूमन बीइंग्स ही थे मेरे हिसाब से तो सब. दादी जी ने भी बचपन में कॉलेज में बहुत शरारतें की थी when I was reading his autobiography, and but suddenly he became Mahatma. क्या हुआ? उन्होंने अपने हायर सेल्फ को जगाया. बुद्धा भी पहले शादी की, फैमिली थी, but he went for meditation and all, and he awakened his higher self. उन्होंने अपने अंदर के ब्राह्मण को, गॉड को जगाया. तो थोड़ा बहुत उन्होंने 100% किया. हम लोग 5, 10, 15% भी करें, अपने लिए करें पहले, फिर फैमिली के लिए, फिर पड़ोस के लिए, फिर अपनी सिटी के लिए, फिर नेशन के लिए, वर्ल्ड के लिए. आप सब लोग आए हैं. आई अगेन अपलॉड ऑल ऑफ यू. आप लोगों ने आके हमको सपोर्ट किया है. सो डीएम में को थोड़ा सपोर्ट करें, मिल के आपकी कोई सजेशंस हैं तो दें. अमित जी यहाँ पर हैं, अमित वर्मा जी फ्रॉम नीति आयोग. तो अमित जी ने हमको इनवाइट किया है नीति आयोग में कि हाउ दे कैन गाइड अस. दिस इज ऑल व्हाट आई वांटेड टू से. एंड आफ्टर दिस सेशन मैंने निधि को बोल दिया है कि यू टेकिंग ए क्लाइमेट प्लेज. तो दोबारा से रिमाइंड करा रहा हूँ, भूल ना जाएं. आफ्टर मिस्टर अमित वर्मा दिस सेशन वी विल टेक ए क्लाइमेट प्लेज. थैंक यू फ्रेंड्स. थैंक यू.
Thank you so much, sir, and especially thank you for showing us that video. I mean, it is really very thought-provoking. It makes us think that are we really headed to our doomsday? But now it is time to put a pause to our thinking and do more than just our thoughts. We have to now put in some actions. It's high time, because otherwise that day is not very far when there's no air to breathe here. I remember many of children, they're as old as 3 and 4-year-olds, and every household is now mandated by a doctor to have an air purifier. It's a very personal note that I'm sharing, but my cousin sister just gave birth to a daughter, and the doctor has literally prescribed to please have air purifiers in all your rooms. So if we don't have the air that we breathe in, there is nothing possible for us to do, let alone earn money or whatsoever, because oxygen is one thing which is what we need, and it starts from very small actions. Use energy efficient appliances, carpool, take public transport, because that is what the need of the hour is. Now we have to start putting in actions. So thank you so much, sir, for showing us that video. And moving forward to our next speaker, we have with us Mr. Amit Verma, who is the director at Niti Aayog. He's also the expert we have with us. He's a natural resource management expert and a development professional with profound experience in sustainable and climate resilient natural resource management. So we look forward to hearing from you. We would love to gather as much wisdom as we can on how to save our planet. So can we give a great round of applause, please?
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, and thanks a lot for the management committee here for inviting me to talk on this very, very relevant and very difficult topic, and very vast topic. So, I mean, it's such a broad topic that, and with so many aspects that it's impossible to cover most of the aspects. And we all have our own, worldview of sustainability. For some people, public transport may be an important thing, or dealing with plastic pollution may be an important thing, or conserving biodiversity may be an important thing, and for some, the international policy may be an important thing. So as I said, there are many aspects, and it's impossible to cover everything. But what I am going to focus on today is how India has taken a global leadership under the guidance of our Honorable Prime Minister, and what are the important things we are doing globally, and also on how the industries can play their own part as far as the regulations for EAC is concerned. So that's going to be my own contribution here today. So it was, the documentary which you had shown today. I mean, it's an amazing piece of work, and we all must have seen the newspaper reports on Gulmarg being snowless this time, right? Even Uttarakhand was snowless till last month. So one of my friends from Hyderabad called me a couple of weeks back, asking me that my daughter has just given the JEE exam and she needs to chill out and need to go to a place where there is snow in Uttarakhand. So I'm an IFS officer from Uttarakhand Cadres, so I called up all my DFOs where I can find snow to send my couple of friends, and there was no snow anywhere. So that's the state of the affairs in JAIN, which although they came back and the next day we had snow everywhere, but still, the snow was pretty late, and which kind of affects all the the natural cycles which take place in our pristine hills, the flowering of the so many plants, the bees and all the insects and different biodiversity which depends on that. So everything gets affected, and that is all coming on because of our very, very consumptive uses of everything, I would say. So we've also talked about our figurative, figuratively we say that we are trying to combat climate change. So one of the figurative things is like not using plastic bottles. But of course we all understand that it is not enough to combat climate change, and there has to be more substantive efforts to it. And we being individuals think we are powerless. What can we do? We are individuals. We don't have enough firepower, so to say, to address the climate change. And which is true to some extent, because there is a huge ecosystem of the market around you, which kind of forces you in a certain behavior which is not completely in your hands. So there is a demand-supply issues of things which are sustainable, and there are many challenges accordingly. But that's where. But when we talk about at the national level, when we look at the the numbers and poverty indices, and you must have seen the recent reports on multi-poverty index, multidimensional poverty index, in which we had Niti Aayog had worked on that, and 25 crore people have been pulled out of multidimensional poverty. So all that is coming at a cost in terms of both to the environment and to the finances. But when we look at the aspirations of those people, we can't tell them. I mean, we are privileged to be sitting here in this room, but we can't tell a poor people that we are not going to develop because you are following a carbon neutral pathway. And so, who gets most adversely affected is going to be you. So when we look at the policy level, we have to take everybody along, and we have to think about developing everybody. And India still has a large population which has a developmental aspiration as compared to countries outside. So just as at individual level we think that we can't do it alone, as a country also we think that we can't do it alone, and it has to be done globally. So global policies become very, very relevant when we talk about climate change, and that's where I would like to start with. So when we talk about global actions, I think the most relevant one, which most of us are aware of, is the COPs. They are very well covered. Every year we have a conference of party meeting held at some place across the globe. And the Paris Agreement kind of brought it to the forefront of the news, and every year we are seeing some commitments or the other. So we are all aware of the Paris commitment that we should aspire, we should definitely not let the temperature go beyond 2 degrees, and also aspire for 1.5 degrees at max. And we also know that the carbon budget for 1.5 degrees is almost exhausted, and we probably are going to hit the 1.5 degree threshold and maybe go beyond that. So when we talk about this, I'll first of all talk about the COP26 commitment which our Honorable PM had made regarding, which is also famous for the net zero commitment of 2070. I'm sure you must have all, since you are here in this sustainability conference, you must be aware of that, but for the sake of repetition, I'll just read out the other 4 also. So the commitment made by India by 2030 was that India would increase its non-fossil fuel energy capacity to 500 gigawatts. That includes both all solar, wind, hydropower, anything which is non-fossil fuel. The country would meet 50% of its energy requirement through renewables by 2030. And India is one of the countries which has gone really fast on that. And we have exceeded all the commitments as far as NDCs are concerned in terms of solar energy. India would also cut its projected carbon emissions by 1 billion tons. And I can assure you that it's a lot. So it's a very aspirational goal which our Honorable Team has set. And then, of course, we decided to reduce the carbon intensity of economy to less than 45% by 2030. So net zero is something which was talked about by earlier also, that although we have committed for 2070, we may do it earlier. So currently, the framework for Viksit Bharat or the developed India by 2047, that framework is being developed, and And the way the India has, the country has progressed as far as meeting the climate goal is concerned, I think I also believe it will happen earlier. But that's a commitment which we have. So it's always better to undercommit and overdo rather than the other way around. So I think that's where we are. So not only that, we've already talked about the frugal lifestyle which India has traditionally followed. We all know that India has been a global thought leader earlier also in ancient times, and the detachment to worldly pleasures and worldly materialistic life has always been there. So our Honorable PM also gave the world coined a new term for them, lifestyle for environment, which is life. You must have seen many of the posters of that, which kind of, how do you, I mean, we of course can't go back to our tribal lifestyle, but we can definitely try to minimize the consumption now. So right from using a staircase instead of a lift to using a public transport and many of the other aspects, and even in the urban life, how can we reduce the consumption is important. So when I started talking about the figurative versus substantive part, there was one thought in my mind which I kind of missed and I'll cover it now. So the option is to go out to a completely frugal lifestyle like our saints used to do, or we could leverage the technology which has also been talked about AI, and how can we leverage AI and develop new technologies. We already are working on carbon capture and utilization, and we are also working on green hydrogen and many other technologies which are going to result in a very carbon neutral world. So obviously I think the path to a completely saint-like life is definitely not there. So we obviously need to leverage our technologies to ensure that the impacts of the carbon footprint are kept to a minimum. So India had also called for in COP27 for climate finance. Nothing will happen without money being there, and the earlier commitments of having $1 billion USDs for fighting climate change didn't really materialize much. So India in COP27 said that the kind of investment required for fighting the climate change across the globe is not going to work out in billions. It has to be in trillions. And new, what we call as new collective quantified goal, or NCQG, was coined at that time. And we decided that we need more money in that, and all countries should contribute more. We also had pushed for a loss and damage fund at that point. Most of the developed countries have kind of used their carbon budget, because of which there is so much of climate variations, and most of the developing countries are at the receiving end, which do not have the capacity to cope up with reconstructing their infrastructure once the climate disaster is struck. So loss and damage fund has become was an important negotiating point with which India did a very strong leadership, showed a very strong leadership for the global south, and that was agreed upon. So UNCTD kind of estimates that we would now need an annual target of about $500 billion from 2025, and which is going to increase to about 1.5 trillion USDs by 2030. So that seems to be a lot of money, but if you look at the global capitalized money in all the capital markets, it's a very tiny fraction. So all the money cannot come from the governments, and that's where the role of industries and ESG and all those important things will come, which I'll cover later. So if you move forward from COP26, I think the global leadership which India showed in G20 in the New Delhi Leaders Declaration has been exemplary. In the 35 pages of that document, the largest portion which has been covered is for climate mitigation and climate finance and all the things related to climate, which kind of emphasizes the need of climate action in today's time. The Sanskrit version of One Earth, One Family, One Future has already been shared here, but that became the tagline of our G20 declaration as well. And unless we globally look at the whole value chains, the whole businesses, and the whole if we can't emphasize the globe as a whole, we can't really fight climate change. Earlier it was also touched upon the International Solar Alliance, which also aspires to have one grid throughout the world, one sun, one grid, one world. which is a very impressive vision, I would say, that we have a solar grid all across the solar panels all across the globe with an interconnected grid, and wherever the sun shines, kind of supplies energy to the rest of the world, which will be a completely fossil fuel free baseline, and which is again conceptualized in India. So there are many things like this which kind of emphasizes the role of global diplomacy in kind of achieving climate goals, which would be very, very difficult to do it within the country. When we talk about economy, there are a lot of macroeconomic risks also. So when you have to, so we look at you must be aware of the fiscal deficit targets, and very recently the budget was also announced, and we've been able to contain our fiscal deficits to a great extent. But if you look at the investments required for climate transition, which normally would amount to about 3 to 4% of our GDP, and if you were to make that additional cost on the budget, our social schemes are going to suffer a lot. So it's important that the macroeconomic risks which come with the global green transition are addressed, and which can be addressed only through a global climate fund. And yeah, so when we talk about the fund, I already told you about the scale of that, about $1.5 trillion till 2030. So that's even once the fund is there, how do you distribute it? I mean, that becomes a second challenge. So who distributes it? How are the countries who are needing it the most? Just like credit access in India, I mean, there is a lot of money with the banks, but is the poorest person able to reach it? Similarly, globally, is the poorest country who is at the most risk of loss and damage or for mitigation exercise is able to reach that or not? That's an important question to answer. So when we talk about reforming the multilateral development banks, the NDBs, it's an important area to discuss, and a triple agenda report was also published during G20 under the chairmanship of NK Sensor, who kind of elaborated on how reforms on multilateral banking can happen. So there are also a lot of focus on climate and sustainable finance in NDIM to support the timely and adequate mobilization of climate finance, both from public and private sources. So when we talk about private sources, we are talking about blended finance. So should the government actually provide the whole capital for it, or should we only cover the risk when we are doing a climate-friendly investment? That is something which has started picking up now. World Bank has its own white paper on blended finance, which is helping the country to all the countries to increase investments by covering those risks. In COP28 also, there were 4 issues which were emphasized by our Honorable PM. The one was the need to propel the new collective quantified goals on climate finance. So it has been talked about in 27, but we really need to emphasize it now, so that in the next couple of years we start seeing the investments coming in. There was also an emphasis that there should be no reduction in the green climate fund, which was earlier decided, and which should be replenished immediately. And I already talked about the multilateral banks reforms. So now, having set the context for the global deliberations, I want to shift the focus a bit on how India, within our country, we are focusing on the ESG part of management. So industries, being industries, they are the engines of consumption, and that's where all the emissions of carbon and consumption of natural resources lie. So without the onboarding of industry, we cannot move forward on climate action. And it's important, like circular economy was talked about earlier. Now, if there is a packet of fungal chips which I want to buy, but the packet is made of multi-layered plastic, which is unsustainable, do I have a choice to not buy it? Or as a consumer, do I have enough clout to make the company come out with a packaging which is sustainable? I mean, that's a challenging part. We could do it through regulations. We could do it through a consumer power. The idea of the BRSR, what we call is it's the Christian ESG of India, the business responsibility and sustainability reporting. So India has always recognized the need of a vibrant industry to create jobs. Unemployment is a major challenge for us. So the approach has not been through strong regulation, it is always through nudges. And nudges can come from the government and nudges can come from the consumers. And I think we all as consumers have responsibility in that sense to convey through our purchasing and through our own consumer forums on what we are expecting from the industry as such. So when we talk about the BRSR code, which was, it's now top 1,000 companies from in terms of market capitalization have to start declaring it starting this year, and so 250 and then 500 and then 750 for next 4 years and then 1,000. So the moment those reports are out, is it something only which they declare and they should not be worried about it? I would prefer to say so, because once you've kept it out in open that this is how much I pollute and this is how much emissions I am creating, it becomes binding on the company in terms of when they take capital, the whole cost of capital increases if you are not sustainable, because that's how many of the finances are now linking it to. And we probably would be aware of the 9 principles of ESG, where 3 principles are for environment, 3 are for social, 3 are for governance. All of them combined kind of creates the whole social and governance infrastructure around the declaration of the company, which kind of binds them to certain behavioral aspects. So when we talk about this declarations, we are also having the top 1,000 countries are all multinationals. They have linked exports. They would be part of global value chains, and they would be exporting to countries like Europe and US. And we are all aware of, must be aware of, restrictions like CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, which is started from this year. So the companies which are not really focusing on their carbon emissions, which are going to find it very, very difficult to be competitive globally, because now primary emissions, the secondary emissions, the scope 3 emissions are all being accounted for, and a fair price of carbon is being put on those products which are being sold outside in Europe and US. So there needs to be an awareness in the corporate world also that being competitive also means being green, and there are many research which I have seen which shows that the cost which a company has to spend in becoming more sustainable, it doesn't really erode the bottom line. It only makes it more resilient for different kind of global shocks, as well as they become more profitable also. You can find many case studies of Unilever and also Nike, Adidas, how they have brought in sustainable clothing, sustainable fabrics, and even the FMCG companies who have brought in sustainable agriculture into mainstream. So when we talk about these efforts, so as I said, industry is where the action lies, and BRSR reporting is now becoming more and more prominent. So the corporate world is full of bright brains, and I'm sure that they would be responding to the challenge of to a world which is fairer, not only to their own employees and shareholders, but also to the planet in terms of less pollution. So I conclude here by saying that climate action is imperative, and there is no choice about it. And there are many players in that. Government is one important player who acts through policy. But the policy is defined by what people want, and people should also display their choices in terms of what they buy and what they don't. And ultimately, it's the industry which has to absorb both of these things and come up with certain production mechanisms which are compliant with the global climate change goals, also with the sustainable development goals, and create an environment where we are able to deliver a future for our kids where they are able to take the planet in the form we had taken. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing with us the initiatives that India has taken and their progress with all of us. And I also would like to think that when every individual thinks of a national good, and when all the nations together think of a global good, only then can sustainable development become a reality. So with that thought, and before we proceed to our next round of panel session, I would be requesting everybody to please stand up as we'll now be taking a pledge. This pledge will be our life. I would be requesting everybody to please bring forward your right arm and please repeat after me. Global Sustainability Summit. Pledge to change. Our lifestyle. To commensurate. With climate change issues. I pledge to make. Sustainability. A priority in my life. We shall watch our carbon. Footprints to minimize it. And to save the planet. And to save the humanity. Amen. And I would want this Global Sustainability Summit, I believe, will definitely bring forward the ideas and thought leadership on synergistic actions to navigate the transition towards sustainable development. Thank you so much. And we will now be moving forward.
Speakers, some flower plants.
And speaking with us and encouraging us. Thank you so much, sir. I now request him to felicitate Mr. Samit Gupta. I now request them to please felicitate.
Thank you. It's an honor presenting.
And now Mr.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.